right. Looks like I have things arranged to take a video. This is, of course, Joe Winberg, Bluebird Semaphore. This is going to be World History for Ordinary People, July 14th, 2024. Now, there's at least three things on my plate to be talking world history. One is on the pretty much the deep back burner because it is. That's the only reason I could give. It is. It's the one where I'm trying to do a survey of English, Britain, Western Europe in a roundabout way, and that's all I'll say about that, because actually, rather than that being like a history lecture in World History for Ordinary People, that's the subject matter that I'm trying to make into a book. So, and the other two subject matters, I continue to beat up on the Far East, and now I'm beating up on the Delaware. So let me tell you how all this is evolving. The Delaware, it's just something that's been a part of my life since a very, very long time ago. And I would have to say that for the early part of that, I wasn't all that aware that I was sitting in Delaware countryside, but I was. Counties in New York, such as Sullivan County and places like Jeffersonville, I think it is, and Hancock, and other places in my early days in the Catskills, put me up against the Delaware and its branches. But more recently, I have been going up to Sussex County, New Jersey, which is the most northwestern county in New Jersey. Not too far from its northern reach is the Delaware Water Gap. And so all these things have more or less been with me. And the part in Sullivan County and Delaware County, New York, when you drive through them, you get a real sense of the geology of the area, because the valleys and the lowish mountain ridges are very, very tight. So you are in these valleys, and early in the afternoon it's already dark because the sun doesn't get down in the valleys. But so by having to go to Sussex a lot, I'm back in that area. And lo and behold, I want to try to get some books, get some information, so maybe I could take a road trip up there. Now, I already have some background on where to go, what to do, but I wanted to get more in depth about it. Now, I did what I normally do, is I went off to the library and tried to get books on Delaware. You would think in a state like New Jersey, that has one of the significant part of its boundary is the Delaware River, that when I went into a New Jersey library, I would hit pay dirt, but I didn't. It's very upsetting because I usually have success when I go to public libraries, but I didn't this time. Now, the young lady in the reference area, she tried to assist me there, but she couldn't come up. Well, first of all, I gave her something that was maybe a little too specific. I asked her to look up a book by John Burroughs called A Summer's Voyage, which is a description of his journey down the east branch of the Delaware. Up at that point, which is basically up around Hancock, there's two branches that come in and pretty much start the Delaware flowing, the west branch and the east branch. Well, Burroughs, who was at the time living in, I want to say, the western Catskills, he had a farm, and one summer he just took it upon himself to want to take this trip down the eastern branch. One thing to keep in mind that back in those days, which that was 1888 when he wrote that, the East Branch nor the West Branch had ever been impounded. They were still free-flowing rivers. Not too long, the East was about 40, and the West was a little longer than that, but they were free-flowing. And a little further down street, this is where the Sussex County part of it came in to play. There's another river branch for the Delaware called Paulin River, Paulina Kill, but it definitely has the name Paul and Ina in it. And it also is not that long, it's about 44 miles. And it flows a little in a curvy way, from what I gather, below Newtown, which is the county seat for Sussex County. It flows underneath that, then comes back up, and then it shoots west again, all the way down to Hancock. This is the Paulinville River. Now, that river also was unimpounded until somewhere, I think, in the early 20th century. They built a dam, they called it the Columbia Dam, down near the end of the river. It must have been a considerable dam because there was one dimension thrown out in the article I read, 250 feet. Now, 250 feet is a pretty long stretch for a dam going across a smallish river. Anyway, so it was there now, and this is a contemporary current events. There's a new environmentalist on the block, and he's called Tear the Dams Down, mind you. So they recently tore the Columbia Dam down. It didn't have, based on the history of that dam, it didn't have a very long life. But be that as it may, the new guy on the block, Mr. Environmentalist, decided the fish had to have more free access to go up the river. This is the alewives. I guess they never heard about those ladders that they put around dams, and the fish go up, continue on their voyage. Be that as it may, I have no dog in this fight. They want to build a dam. That I'm a little concerned about. They want to tear it down. You know, one way or the other, tear it down. Just don't contaminate the river with debris, the concrete, the steel rods left in the river. But I really don't have a dog in that fight, and they tore it down, and the local residents were not that happy about it because it had formed a lake behind the dam, which had become infamous for fishing. And if you know anything about that neck of the woods, you know that that's a trout capital of the world, or at least one of the rivers such as the Beaverkill and the Willowemac, and this Paulin Kill also, very famous for their trout fishing. So the locals weren't too happy about tearing the dam down. But what do locals have? Once those government officials get a hold of a project and see feathering your bed as a result of their concern for the environment, you know who's going to come out on top. It's not going to be the locals. So anyway, the locals lost that battle, and now the Paulin River ends as an estuary dumping into the Delaware. And I think it does that around the Delaware Water Gap, which is quite a phenomenal piece of geology. I guess at one time a massive, well, I don't know if this is all true or not, but like any other notch in a ridge, and this was an Appalachian ridge that was going north and south, or maybe northwest to southeast, or vice versa, but it was going north and south. And there was water behind it. There was a glacier all stacked up. And that broke through. Boom. You got the gap. You got the Delaware Water Gap. And none of these things are very permanent, by the way, because this is all geology, and geology is anything but permanent. As you must know, geology is changing all the time. As you would know even more so if you read this book by John McPhee. Can you see it? Unto the Annals of the Former World, John McPhee. And how did this come into my hands? Well, it goes back to that session I had at the library. The young lady couldn't help me. So I went traipsing up and down the aisles looking for stuff about Delaware. I didn't find anything. This is what you find these days. You find these tourist guides, and tell you where to go to get a McDonald's in a town like Hancock. That's what you find. Yeah, you don't find deep, insightful investigations. That's out of the libraries. The young lady that tried to help me find A Summer's Voyage by John Burroughs, she couldn't come up with anything. And she recommended the Project Gutenberg. I told her, thank you. I know all about that. I didn't say it sarcastically, like I know everything, but no, I know that. And I said, yeah, that's a good place to start. Well, and I'll tell you about that right now. Well, it's not such a good place to start anymore because A, the big guy is punching himself in front of Gutenberg so that you don't get right to Gutenberg. You get to all these other sites that pay enough to get in front of Project Gutenberg. And I didn't find what I was looking for once I did get to Project Gutenberg. It may be that maybe it's not really a book, maybe it's just an article in an environmental magazine or a literary magazine, because John Burroughs was considered quite the writer in his day. So who knows? I didn't find it. I haven't given up yet. I may even take a trek up to Woodchuck Lodge in Kingston, which is the epicenter for everything John Burroughs. Maybe I'll find more up there. But so I trekked around the library looking for books on Delaware and the Delaware River. And first of all, the shelves in the library seemed half empty. Half empty. Not like it was a year or two before when I was looking in the library for books. But anyway, lo and behold, there was a big gap on one stretch of books, big gap, and laying down so irreverently was the McPhee book, laid down on its side. Being a big fan of John McPhee, I picked it up, and I saw it was about geology, and I got the idea that it had some eastern United States geology. I looked a little further, and it had mentions and pieces of data concerning the Delaware. So I decided to get it, and it's a very interesting book, to say the least. I'm getting good information on the Delaware and the East Branch and the West Branch, although you could probably get that right out of Wikipedia. Which brings me to another point at the library. You go to the library computer systems today, you think you're going to get a different type of assistance. No, you get exactly what you would do if you logged on to your personal computer, okay? And you're trying to find something, and what do? You get Microsoft pushing you in a certain direction. That's what you get at the library. So I'd almost say don't bother going to your libraries anymore. Unless you got a specific book in mind and you know they have it, don't bother. Or also go to their book sales. I get a lot of good books from their book sales. Anyway, I was very disappointed, but not with the book I got there. I had to check that one out, use my library card. And the book is broken up into about 5 chapters, and each one, John McPhee, not unlike in other books of his, he walks around with a prominent person in the field. And the thing about the Delaware, he hooks up with somebody called Anita Harris, the female geologist, probably an important geologist. And her era of being, I'm going to guess, I'm not looking at it right now, but probably 1930, forward 70, 80 years. And born in Brooklyn, grew up in Brooklyn, and right away, John McPhee is talking to her, and it gets started by plate tectonics because he is going to tag along with her as she makes a trek across the Appalachian Mountains from east to west, chopping at ridges and mountain sides and surfaces, looking for stones, looking for traces of what went on in the past. And she originally, her and her husband got jobs out of college with the U.S. Geological Survey. And then, along came something that made it less, their work to be less needed. And they both were out of work. He did something, I forget, the husband was also a geologist. And she went into teaching something in a city school district. Could have been Chicago, Could have been Cleveland. I don't know. But it was one of those Midwest towns. She taught there for a while. But then her discovery that she had made on the quiet, because nobody was interested, years ago, she discovered a certain phenomenon about, I want to call them micro lits of some sort. She determined that these things were like a fingerprint. And by judging the color of these microliths, there's a real name, conundrites or something. You know the temperature of the formation and the background of those minute particles of stone. You know that it can only come to this color. The temperature had to be 1,500 degrees. There's no way around it. It was etched in stone. How do you like that? No pun made. But she brought that to the attention of the more worthy geologists. And of course they told her, nobody cares, get out of here. So she just put it aside. And I think she put it aside for 15 years. And then she was at some sort of a conference. And somebody mentioned the background information that she had gathered. And she said, oh, let me guess, they're all conodontrites. And he was amazed because nobody knew this, or so he thought. But she knew it, and by her knowing it, she was asked to give a couple papers, make a couple of lectures, and before you know it, all the oil companies in the world wanted her, but she went back to the United States Geological Survey. And she continued her work on these infinitesimally small pieces of stone that are like thumbprints, giving you the information of the land. And it's very interesting. The book is very interesting. Of course, John McVeigh, tells it in a way that we can understand. We, the less informed, we can understand it. And the problem with it, though, the problem with the book, I find, it's just so incredibly large, really. Which I intend to try to read it, because all the different areas I'm interested in. This book goes up almost into the 700s. It looks bigger than that, but my word, he can write, that guy. I think he likes to write, but his famous books, Birch Park Canoe, Meetings with the Arch Druid, the Pine Barrens. He's written quite a litany of important environmental books, very important. He's up there with the best of them, no doubt about that. And I'm not saying anything that anybody who knows anything about the history of books in that genre doesn't already know. John McVeigh is one of the gods. All right, so that put me square in the Delaware again. A lot of little discussions in there. Let's call them micro discussions about the Delaware. And I'll give you a little note. The Delaware, the upper Delaware, is one of the cleanest and most environmentally sound rivers in the country. It has to meander all the way down to get into that rather unpleasant neighborhood we call Trenton. And it will be impounded. Now, I think having actually gone further upriver, but not that far up, around Lambertville and Lumberton, there are falls there, but they may be natural, rocks in the water and that sort of thing. But at Trenton, there's something that impounds the water. So navigation is okay up to that point. Then there can't be any more navigation on the Delaware. Not big ships. I mean, you take your kayak there, but that's about it. So I just wanted you to know, though, the Delaware upriver, very scenic, very clean, very, very clean. We spent a wonderful afternoon playing Huckleberry Finn on a houseboat-like raft vessel up around Upper Black Eddy. It's just, I'll never forget that, because the water was turquoise. The sky was turquoise. The west-facing slope of the valley was luscious green, light-colored green. It was very spectacular. The cool water of the Delaware as escape from the heat, the summer heat. It's almost as if I took that summer voyage that John Burroughs took. Now, of course I didn't, but it's almost as if I did. Now, the Delaware is now on my radar to look further into. And I will, and hopefully I'll get more information. Hopefully I'll take that ride up to Kingston, New York, and find Woodchuck Lodge, which have been wanting to find, or at least visit, for a very long time. She's one of my heroes. This man, all on his own, developed the Concord grape business. On his farm, he did the stuff scientists do and came up with a strain of Concord grape, which was essentially the native fox grape, but he continued to select for certain properties, and so that he could predict what type of grape would come out of what type of seed. He did that. He became successful with it. He brought his product to market in Boston, and the rest is grape jelly. I mean, the merchants in Boston went gaga for his product. He was quite the man, John Burroughs, and he didn't suffer fools lightly. He, with the so-called important people of the country, took a field trip, and they had invited him along as one of the honored guests. I'm not absolutely sure, but John Muir may have been in that group of people. And I won't name the non-naturalists, because most of them are just political names. And I don't want to smear this talk with politics, but the rest of the folks in that group, they were in Yellowstone National Park, and they must have been near the sulfur springs, the geyser, and they were all going on about how beautiful the place was. Isn't this wonderful? John Burroughs called it like it was. He says, I can't wait to get out of here. This place stinks. Of course, he was talking about the stink of sulfur. But like I said, he didn't suffer fools lightly. Anyway, he also, one of their modes of transportation back then would be if they needed to get to Poughkeepsie, which was on the other side of the river from Kingston, they had to put their rowboat in the river and row across the river and then row back. Now, if you've ever been up there, you know that the Hudson River up there is a mighty river. with a mighty current. I don't think it's tidal anymore up there. It might have a little bit of tidal stuff, but I don't think very strongly in those terms. The Hudson River is tidal, meaning the tide from the sea comes all the way up. It comes all the way up at least as far as what's that city where the nuclear power plants are? There's Peekskill. I know it comes that far because I was in the laboratory there where certain biologists were collecting the southern species of fish. They would catch it in nets, and these fish were seeking the heat bloom from the reactor's heat exchangers. You know, the hot water from the reactor gets into the cooler water of the river, and they get that differential in temperature, and they can make steam and electricity and all that stuff. So I know that it was tidal up to at least there because the southern species of fish got up there, and they didn't get up there by walking or taking the New York Central Railroad. That they didn't do. They were following the streams of scent that were filtering in the river, upstream, downstream, and the little fishies followed that. And so I saw that, and I know it's tidal. And like they say, it's like a wedge. A wedge, you know, outside the wedge is the background Hudson River water, and the wedge is the water coming in from the ocean, the New York Bight, so to speak. You know why they call it a bight, right? Because ancient times, some ocean, some sea took a bite out of the shore. So you look at the map of the shoreline, you see this big thing that looks like a huge bay or something like that, and it's been referred to as a bite. Anyway, so John McPhee, Delaware River, very important. And I got sidetracked on that because, like I said, going up to Sussex, and Sussex has some interesting things, which hopefully I'll report on that in the future. But I think perhaps the best thing I've seen up there so far is a wonderfully preserved mill, an old mill. And the designers and builders of that mill, they had tremendous skill. The walls and the massive stones of the walls of the mill just will overwhelm you. The precision of their cutting of the stones and the precision of the cutting of the huge logs that were inserted at angles usually into the stones to create these immense barriers to the pressure, the relentless pressure of a river bearing down on it. Now, in this case, the river was the Paulin River. This is in Franklyn, New Jersey. And, you know, you see these wonderful rustic pictures of mills. And the last thing I ever thought of was that these had to be some super structures. Super. But once actually in one, it was obvious these things were superstructures. So I hope to get back in there and take some pictures, and you can see for yourself what that's all about. It's a lovely, lovely county up there. Sussex County, but it's like anywhere else in the world. All the good stuff has been gobbled up. You know, the rich folks have every square inch on the lakes, and there's a ton of them up there. And it's not to say that the people who live up there, even those who have places on the lakes, are rich. They could be renting from the rich. I don't know. But there's nothing available. You can't buy anything. So I won't even try. Not that I could, but I won't try. It is lovely country. And I'll be going back up there, no doubt about that. Some very nice people. What can I say? All right, but in order to get to the Delaware, I had to put down this vast and becoming more so antagonistic look into the Far East. I can't wait to be done with it. Gosh, people were forever changing their minds. This is the period primarily between World War I and World War II. And it's primarily about the antagonism brought about by Japan being who Japan is and was for hundreds and hundreds of years, when they were playing the role of bad guy samurai. I'll cut your head off. All right? And they did nothing but, upset every attempt by any other country to iron things out, to get people to agree. They wouldn't do it no matter what. Even if they were going to come out on top, they wouldn't do it. They were just arrogant. So I have to suffer. He's a good writer. I've talked about him before, Reed. But I have to suffer through all these treaties going down the tubes. They make up a treaty and then they break it. They make up another treaty and they break it. And now I have to find out about all the treachery that went on behind the scenes leading up to Pearl Harbor. Treachery. Terrible. But it proves the point, in my mind, that states feel they have every right to kill as many people as they want in order to ensure their continuance. And that's not just Japan, it's every state on the planet believes they have the right to kill. And if they're killing in an effort to keep their sovereignty, to keep their country moving forward. How do you become a human being that thinks like that? It's okay for me to kill 100,000 people because when it's all over, I'm still going to be here. How do you come up with that? I don't know. But I want to finish the book. I don't think I'm going to get my answer because there is no answer to that. At least there won't be one that I'll accept. Anyway, so that got in the way, is still in the way, and I can only tolerate 3 or 4 pages of that book at a time. So it's going to take a while. Fortunately, I have Annuals of a Former World to keep me company until I get through with Far East Asia. And, what that book is doing, though, is just making the scenery, the political and social scenery of China and Japan just so much clearer, just so much clearer than it ever had been for me before. So I see the whole thing now a lot clearer. When different books start to jive, you know what I'm saying? they one supporting the evidence from the other and another. You start to get the picture, and that's pretty much what I'm doing with China, Japan, Korea, Manchuria, Soviet Union. They're all involved, and of course, Britain, France, the Netherlands. They're all involved. They were all involved in what was going on there, and it wasn't very nice. I guess there was a point in the book where I gave the Netherlands a slight nod of appreciation because they stood up to the Japanese, although the Japanese did put them into the ground before World War II and to get the oil, or maybe during the first part of World War II. But the Netherlands told Japan, no, we're not going to do what you requested, which was pretty much just give up. Hey, come over here, take everything we just worked 300 years for. It's yours. People are crazy. But, so I got to finish it. I probably have 150 or 200 pages left. Sorry I haven't picked the book up. But, so that's it. The upcoming talks on world history for ordinary people will continue to talk about this. Hopefully, I'll get back on gathering information from my book, The History of England and Western Europe, from the last glacial maximum to, I forget, what is the rest of it? From the last glacial maximum to something. I'll get back on that book, hopefully. In the meantime, it's summer and it's very hot. Very hot, very humid. It's been this way all through June. It's now July. And I'm not looking forward much to any more of this, but I think I'm going to have to suffer. Anyway, folks, glad to be back with you. I hope you enjoyed my little discussion. And anyway, what can I say? You know how to get in touch with me, right? You know how to get in touch with me, right? Joe Wenberg. Joe Wenberg. Joe Wenberg 189 gmail.com. So anyway, have a good time. There's a new piano posting up there too if you're interested. And hey, I put it up there this morning, so go take a look. Talk to you. What else? I have at least one trip planned, and maybe I'll bring back some videos from that trip. Who knows? I'm going to click now.